Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Winfree, and what you're about to listen to is an old episode of a podcast I used to host called Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. This particular episode originally aired January 17th, 2014, and features myself and Sean Comer discussing the Alien franchise, the Xenomorphs, the little bit of a dovetail into kind of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. So, a little bit of that, but mostly the Xenomorphs. Again, this aired in 2014, so we are post-Prometheus, but pre-Alien Covenant. Probably for the best. I defend Prometheus to this day. Covenant not so much. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. And we have a pretty good discussion about it. Also a little bit about, some of the horror stories behind the individual films. So a little bit of the actual production side as well as the fictional. So it's a good time. Thank you all very, very much for listening. Anything you can do to interact with the product is appreciated, depending on your podcast platform of choice, of course. With that out of the way, thank you again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show.
When the devil is too busy and dead's a bit too much, they call on me by name, you see, for my special touch. To the gentlemen, I'm misfortune. To the ladies, I'm surprise. But call me by any name, anyway, it's all the same. I'm the fly in your suit, I'm the pebble in your shoe, I'm the key beneath your bed, I'm the bump on every head, I'm the heel on which you slip, I'm the pin in every head, I'm the thorn in your side, makes you wriggle and writhe, and it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me, I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. You'll give her all the pay I'll ever need.
Hello, good evening, as it's being broadcast live in the evening, or whatever time of day you're listening to this. This is Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. I am your host, Robert Winfree, and thank you all so very much for joining us. I anticipate having a very fun edition this time around for this particular show, because I do so many of them. Alright, I know, let me kind of get the elephant in the room out of the way. I know I said I'd be back last week. Lack of inspiration, personal stuff, life happens. You don't tune into the show to hear about my personal life. You turn in to hear me and my guests talk about various bad guys, and we have some fun with that. But I wasn't able to be on last week. I apologize to, the three of you who are looking forward to it. But I am back this week, and early promise, I believe I will be back next week. And more on that at the end of the show. I just have to hammer out a couple of details with the potential guest, and we should finally be back to, every week until I decide to permanently change this every other week or something to that effect. But this week, I'm doing a sort of crossover event. I've done this before, but the good folks over at The Long Road to Ruin, Mark Radlett, Sean Comer, and their guest for the next couple of podcasts they're doing, Mr. Jared Offit. And I'm probably mispronouncing that or getting his name wrong, but they're doing the Alien series, the Predator series, the Alien versus Predator series, and all of the requisite stuff that goes along with that. So to kind of be a team player, since we're all on the same network and since I didn't have a better idea, today we are talking about Xenomorphs. That's right, the funky-looking aliens from the Alien franchise. Acid for blood, secondary mouths that spit out and will punch right through anything, giant queens, face huggers, whole 9 yards, and we're going to have a good time doing it. And I have a guest. I try to have guests because that's more fun for everybody. He is co-founder and co-host of The Long Road to Ruin, which is probably going to be renamed in the near future due to legal issues. But Sean Comer is here with us because apparently one podcast is just not enough to talk about aliens and all of their requisite goodness. So Sean, welcome back. How you doing?
Well, I'll give you this. You got his first name right. Or not his first name. Yeah, you got his, I should say you got his last name.
I did.
It's Jason Offit.
Jason. I get Jared's and Jason's confused all the time. It's nothing personal, Mr. Offit, if you're listening. I have a long history of confusing those two first names. Or surnames, come to think of it.
No, it's all good. But yes, thank you for having me on. And I apologize if I'm going to be a bit less organized and maybe a little bit more free-form than I normally am on my show. I'm just kind of filling in because he said he needed a guest to talk Xenomorphs, and I pretty much took it as an open invitation because, fuck it, the first two Aliens are two of my all-time favorite movies. But
so what are your feelings on the fourth one?
Oh, dear.
I've listened to the podcast. For anyone who hasn't, after this is done, the Alien Quadrilogy podcast is up on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. It's on Blog Talk. It's on iTunes. Was this the first one that went up on Manic Expressions, or is that coming, or is that still forthcoming?
You know, I've actually got to talk to him about that because I was having a little trouble getting it uploaded. We got it uploaded to the account, but I'm not sure if it was actually uploaded to their channel. Okay.
Well, hopefully that'll be the first of many, or if not, then the next one's technical issues tend to be resolved the more experience you get. So, but yeah, I had a fun time with that one, and you guys are doing that big series, so I figured I'll be a team player. I'll do some crossovers, and since I have nothing better to talk about, we'll start with the aliens, the Xenomorphs, who adapt form to whatever host they happen to come out of. And you guys did that last week. Next week you're doing Predator. So is it next week or is it the week after?
No, you're right. On the 21st, we are tackling the 3 Predator movies, the 2 original ones, and the better than God should have ever given it any right to be remake.
Okay. So yeah. And then, so next week I'll probably do the Predator species to go along with you guys doing that. Assuming Mark's available, that's one of those that are, Mark Radulich, the host of the Radulich Broadcasting Network. That's one of those that he said, I want to be on when you do it, or God help you, I shall find you and do horrible things. I don't know. That's one of those that he wanted to be a part of, so I am reserving it for him. If he's not available, I'll do something. But
he was that adamant about wanting to do Predator? Really?
I believe so.
I didn't know.
I might be blending that with his threat of us doing, the Terminator franchise on Long Road to Ruin without him. But But yeah, when I first started this series up, he mentioned that the Predator alien is one of his favorite movie monsters of all time. I believe it's Mark. If it's someone else, and I'm just forgetting, I am going to look like a complete jackass. But I believe it was Mark. So Predator is one of those that I'm kind of reserving for him. So. Hopefully with that next week, but we're here to talk the aliens, the debatably better half. They probably have the better string of movies, at least the first 2 are just that strong. So, this may be a bit of a retread for you and for people who have listened to the Long Road to Ruin talk about the alien movies, but what was kind of your introduction to the franchise as a whole? And since we're talking about very specifically the creatures, kind of your impressions of them and any interesting tidbits that you feel like throwing in along the way?
Really, honestly, there's not much of a story behind how I happened to come across Predator.
Aliens. Sorry.
Fuck, man.
We got talking about Predator there for a bit, but yeah, aliens. That would be so awesome if we just spent a whole podcast on the wrong one and I just mislabeled everything.
Well, the 3rd movie came out when I was in elementary, and in fact, too young to have really gotten in to see it. Of course, I had fairly conservative parents who damn sure weren't going to take me to a theater to see it. Hell, they kind of flipped out when 2nd grade me conned them into renting RoboCop for me.
Really?
Hand to God, that is one of the all-time big cons I pulled off as a kid. But no, so I was vaguely familiar with Alien 3 from the ads, despite having never seen it, and then years later, just because obviously their reputations, I should say, preceded them as modern classics of sci-fi, I happened to sit down and watch the first 2 movies and just absolutely loved them. for how they seem to try more than contemporary sci-fi of the last couple of decades has generally tried. I know there are exceptions. I know there are a couple of good ones out there, so don't go getting all fucking pedantic on me.
I'm not gonna.
About this one. This one was totally good. No.
I forgot about Battlefield Earth. That was a sci-fi movie, if I recall correctly.
Fuck you hard enough that your great-grandchildren walk funny, Winfree.
I'm just saying, there were good ones. That's a reminder that there were good ones, but there were some absolutely horrible ones as well. So when we praise Aliens, we're not getting bad.
There have been a few good ones, but nothing that's been good in quite the same way, in that it's sci-fi, at least in the first two movies, that's pretty much treated like it's actually trying to be the art of film, of actual cinematic storytelling. And it's not just there to be pure spectacle. It's kind of trying to do, and succeeds at doing, a lot more with a lot less than really any other movie. And I know it sounds ridiculous to be talking about movies that are essentially the brainchildren of such geniuses as H.R. Geiger and Stan Winston and James Cameron and Ridley Scott and David Fincher and whatever the French ball of schmuck was who made Alien Resurrection.
Jean-Pierre something, I think.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
We'll just call him Jean-Pierre. You're not worthy of me remembering your name. From now on, you are just the French WWE pirate.
All right.
That is all you fucking are to me. Although, we can't hold Joss Whedon blameless because he did fucking write this.
Yes, you did.
But they really, for the most part, kind of go out of their way to not go so over the top, trying to do everything in pixel. And with a green screen, trying to actually do a lot of things for real. And obviously impressive things about the movies that are done in that fashion are the actual Xenomorphs and the way they've been allowed to evolve throughout, we'll say all four movies, and still retain a lot of that original, authentic menace that you just can't get with something that you pop into a shot with actors.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest... I rewatched the Alien quadrilogy when I was getting ready to listen to your podcast because I wanted to be up to speed on it. And after watching, all of these practically done Xenomorphs from Alien and Aliens, and, seeing people react to them and seeing them blow up and whatnot, and, to then go to bad CGI version of a Rottweiler was just such a jarring thing that, it's been talked about, kind of ad nauseum, but when you have something that is that jarring, it takes you out of the experience of being in the film. And watching, again, this is bad CGI as far as the third Alien movie, Alien 3 goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and look, not even just, there were some times when, cutting edge special effects in, the mid-90s don't hold up today, and that's, so be it. That's kind of how things work as technology progresses. Then there's just bad. This would be bad in any movie, it was just badly done CGI for this, because I don't know why they didn't make a real one, but, and watching it, and you can tell that the actors are being told, okay, it's going to be here, you're going to react to it like this, and there's a world of difference between being told to react to something and having something to react to. And the practicality of, here, we'll make a giant suit, and there will be all these animatronics, and we'll cover the damn thing in Vaseline so that it drips like it does, that you get in the first one. And, and having people react to the thing being there is a big part of suspending your disbelief, of keeping you within the realm of the movie. I mean, that was... I know people who had a serious... I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to throw myself in here, but I know people who had a serious problem with the CGI for the last Amazing Spider-Man movie. That it just took them out of enjoying the film. Not me, again, I haven't seen it. But, again, there are...
I could see where they would be coming from, but the thing about that is CGI was used on a much smaller scale than it was in the previous three movies. So that would be one where I would kind of be waiting with bated breath to hear somebody try to say, No, the Sam Raimi movies, on the other hand.
Oh no,
No.
Anybody who
Shut
says
up.
that to me, just no. The only thing the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies have going for them is Bruce Campbell.
While I wouldn't go that far, I would say that as special effects go, almost kind of symbolic of the whole thing. One of the more famous moments when Tobey Maguire tried to do his own stunt in that movie, permanently fucked his back up.
Yeah, leave the stunts to the stuntmen, people. It's better that way.
There are some people who can pull it off and really take their lumps and display exceptional endurance for actors. Well, hell, as long as we're talking about Alien, Sigourney Weaver really kind of gets her hands dirty. On the last episode of The Long Road to Ruin, I talked at length in the overrun about how the closest contemporary horror and sci-fi gets to a lead actress who is really willing to bust her ass to carry off being convincing as a real physical match for the monster. The closest match we get to Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton nowadays is Mila Jovovich. And that's not backhanded. That's actually one of the few genuine compliments that I could really give. But on the other hand, there's a reason why Jackie Chan famously always includes a bunch of outtakes at the end of his movie. Is supposedly to demonstrate I do my own stunts, and look what it fucking does to me.
Yeah. And God bless him for it.
Yeah, and imagine how he's got to feel when somebody pirates one of his fucking movies. He's not even getting paid for every bone in his body that he's broken. It's no wonder he's notoriously a little bit of a dick in person.
Well, when you get hit in the head as many times as I assume he's been, there's bound to be a few personality alterations that go along with it.
Yeah, but also there's a really good article on Cracked that was actually done recently by a professional stuntwoman. It's one of their typical list articles, the top 4 or 5 things, I forget exactly what it's called, that nobody tells you about doing stunt work or something like that.
One of their they'll have titles like that.
Yeah, and while it's a little hard to read sometimes and not think of it as her coming off as being just a tad on the bitter side, she does kind of go into a pretty good length as to just how many stunt people do, so that at the end of the day, the actors don't have any grime and grit under their fingernails, or blood to wash off, or broken bones, or dislocated.
Trips to the hospital.
Yeah, so on and so forth. Everything from getting a drink dumped on them to leaping through a plate glass window and over a pool of sharks that's been set on fire.
Because you have to jump the sharks, people.
Right, exactly. But there's also kind of a line. There's kind of a line wherein authenticity really counts. And it's something that especially the first 2 Alien movies had, in that the first movie, the Xenomorph, was a 7-foot-plus African exchange student that a couple of the production crew met in a bar and hired to step into this incredibly designed suit. And his performance alone was amazing enough in that you forget it's a guy.
Yeah.
You watch it, and it sometimes, maybe for just a nanosecond there, it just managed to pop back in your head. Wait a second. That's a human being. That's a human being that's lurching around like that. And then you go and look at the second movie, and you look at the tremendous practical effect, the 100% practical effect that was the Queen Alien, and how elaborate that is. And the sad thing is, there are little shits running around nowadays who will watch those movies, and the little turds will have the audacity, the temerity, doesn't look so impressive. That's not. And then you almost have to deck them and just say, that's not pixel. That's not clicks of a mouse. That's not rendering.
No, they actually built the thing.
Yeah, that is a physical goddamn thing. And we're going to be saying the same thing on Predator. When you consider that the Predator is a guy in a suit.
Yeah, and that's the Queen herself is one of those things in Aliens that is so impressive. I mean, when you consider just the logistics of not only building the thing, but that it had to look a certain way because you had two puppeteers who were in there working it, and all of the logistical and from a camera angle issues that you had with it, because if memory serves, it could not be supported by its legs. I mean, the weight of the thing would not support itself. So when they're doing all the shots with them fighting, with whether it's the Queen chasing them or Ripley fighting it with the loader or any of that, from a director's standpoint, you can't do the pull back and show the whole thing fighting, because you actually only have small bits that are fighting each other or chasing you, and you have to make do with that. And it's a great use of the less is more. I mean, granted, it's kind of a forced philosophy in this case because there were physical limitations, but that whole philosophy of I don't need to see everything. The human mind will make up the deficits in what it's shown if you kind of keep the story consistent. If you let the mind work, it will fill in the gaps for you, and you don't need to show every little detail.
Okay, exactly. By the same token, look at the first movie and think about how many times you really see the full-body Xenomorph throughout that entire... And keep in mind, movies are a lot shorter than they used. Alien is a 2-plus movie. Out of that entire thing, and go ahead and hold this against me. I was too busy to actually look up how long it was. I would be willing to bet that there is not more, and I'm going to be generous here, than 10 minutes in that entire movie in which you actually see the entire alien in a single shot. And it is a good over a third of the way into the movie, if I recall correctly. Maybe more than that, before you even actually see the adult Xenomorph.
At least. I mean, you get the chest buster scene, and you see the little guy come out and run away. Then they start looking for it. They find its, molted exoskeleton. But you don't actually... I mean, even the first couple of guys it kills, because I think it kills Harry Dean Stanton first, if memory serves me, and you just get some glimpses of it. It kind of appears behind him, and then you get the cutaway to the close-up of the mouth and the second proboscis shooting out and punching a hole in him, and then you kind of see it when it gets Tom Skerritt for a second. I mean, the closest you see to full body for that thing until the final sequence is when it's looking at the cat and the cat carrier.
Yeah.
Because Ripley takes the cat and sticks it in the carrier because apparently you have to save the cat. And it's looking at it, and that's the first kind of prolonged shot you get where you see the whole thing. And then there's a scene where Ripley comes around and sees that it's there, and you get a second or two of seeing the full body. Then she tries to stop the self-destruct sequence, which is kind of funny because, they're doing the countdown there, and I'm thinking, it probably would, you have 10 minutes. You start the self-destruct sequence, and then the computer goes, okay, after 10 minutes, it's not rescindable. This is your point of no return here. And then I'm watching her try to stop it. I'm thinking it would probably take 10 minutes to stop it, the way they had that thing set up. But yeah, the only time the closest, apart from that, when they're in the shuttle after they've blown up the Nostromo, when it's sleeping or whatever in the wall, you get a decent look at kind of from side to side the whole thing, but you almost never see the whole thing, and your mind just kind of does the rest of the work for you.
Yeah, and I by the way, I love that shot when it catches up to Skerritt in the ducts, where he turns around with the flashlight, and it's just there. My second favorite reveal of it in the entire movie is, oh God, I'm forgetting now which kill it was. It might have been when it gets Harry Dean Stanton, when you first see the tail descending behind it.
That's either when it gets Harry Dean Stanton or when it kills the other chick.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one. It's one of those two.
I'm trying to remember her name now too. I know it's one of those. I know.
Veronica. I think it's Veronica Cartwright as the actress.
Yeah, I know it's
something
Veronica.
To that effect.
I just can't remember her name. But God, I mean, what a great introduction to a monster that you see so little of. The closest thing I can really compare that to would be, well, in terms of how much you actually see the monster, would be how much you actually see Michael Myers in Halloween.
I was surprised that, because I first saw that movie it came out well before I was born. I first saw it from start to finish only a couple of years ago. Because, I'm a horror guy. How can I have not seen the first Halloween? Well, okay, I'll see the Halloween. Still haven't seen The Exorcist. So for all the horror guys out there, you want to beat me up over my horror card? I haven't seen The Exorcist. There's your fodder. But I was surprised at how much you get a lot of hints of Myers. He's unfocused in the background or driving by in a car, and again, your mind does the rest. You don't need to see every little detail.
To be honest with you, one of my favorite other sci-fi movies that I can think of that really plays so well with not really seeing the monster but letting it be a presence, believe it or not, Pitch Black.
I'll buy that. I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't want to spoil everything here, but the primary difference there is, well, first of all, you almost never see them because they only come out when it's dark. And there's a lot of them as opposed to generally, again, from the first Alien, the first one. But, yeah, they do a lot with just suggestion and glimpses of it. I mean, the less is more technique goes all the way back to, I forget the year it came out, but like the Cat People, when everything that happens off screen and you just get to make it up in your own head what actually happened, which can be, exponentially more scary than anything you could put on screen.
And you see, and I feel this is worth noting. This is completely different from the non-presence of the monster factor of, say, The Walking Dead.
Careful now. That's one of my favorite shows.
Okay. Bear with me on my complaint on this.
Okay.
And anybody else who wants to bitch at me about this, fucking eat me.
I'm willing to listen to alternate opinions. It's not the end of the world if we disagree.
One of my chief problems, and I'm going to limit it to this one just because it's the only one that's actually germane to the discussion, is the fact that for about a good season and a half of the show, it's not so much zombies as it is, let's talk about our feelings on, by the way, zombies.
Season 2 has a lot of that, and
there
were parts of Season 1.
Midway through 2, they swapped out Frank Darabont as the showrunner, and all of a sudden, starting with The Barn, things conspicuously got a lot fucking better. Now, I could go into my other problems with the show, but that's for another time. I have not seen any of Season 4, but from mid-Season 2 all the way up through Season 3, I'm liking it a lot more right now.
My personal opinion of that is that the first season benefits tremendously from being like 5 episodes long. And the fact that we now have to fill, the fact that there's now a mid-season finale and you're stretching a season out over like 20-some-odd episodes, it hurts in terms of execution and kind of how the concept of, zombie apocalypse goes forward. It's one of those things that's better served in short doses as opposed to drawn out, but that's the nature of, certain genres.
Well, right, but I mean, where I differentiate between something like that and Aliens is the fact that in Aliens, they kind of retain a little bit more of a persistent presence throughout the entire thing. Everything is about them being a threat, even though they're not there. They're always there, even when they're not there.
Yeah. Now, I want to kind of bring this up to you because we've talked a lot about the alien and the full-grown xenomorph. We've touched on just to anyone out there, just as a minor point of comparison about practical versus special effects, and maybe I'm off base here. I haven't seen this movie in a while because I choose not to. But if you compare the scene in which Ellen Ripley and Newt are being chased by the alien queen from Aliens to the scene where Juvenile Predator and What's-Her-Face are being chased by the alien queen in Alien vs. Predator, you will note the world of difference. One of those is exceptionally well done, the other one is not, and the fact that one of them is practical and one of them is CGI does not help the other one in the least. But I wanted to bring, these are multi-form, these are life form, what is the word I'm looking for? There are a bunch of different phases in the life cycle of this particular species, and one of them that I want to touch on because it's kind of creepy is the facehugger.
Oh, the fucking facehugger. That might actually be creepier than the actual full-grown Z.
It might, and the facehugger is one of those things that if you look at the first to the second Alien movies, they change. They make they kind of alter the design a little bit. They change how it exists within its world a tad, and it's just it's for narrative purposes. I mean, and I'm not a stickler for the minutia of continuity. So if the facehugger can now move around the room, if it can now scrabble around the room like a giant spider and attack you from behind instead of just leaping out of the egg, I'm fine and dandy with that. But I just kind of want we've talked about again, the full-grown Xenomorphs, which actually wouldn't exist without the facehugger. So I'm just kind of curious as to, what do you think about their design, their function, the way they appear in the films? I mean, one of the few redeeming shots of Alien vs. Predator was, and you knew they were going to do it, they almost had to, but you get the slow-motion facehugger leaping out of the egg to attach itself to someone, which is kind of cool.
But you know what? In the first movie, we never really evidence that they can't just launch out of the egg, because
John Hurt leans over the opening.
Well, yeah, there's that, but there's also the fact that, keep in mind, when we see it after it detached itself from John Hurt, it falls out of the fucking ceiling. It got there somewhere. I have a hard time imagining an even groggier looking than usual John Hurt just stumbling off of his table and just going, this'll fuck with him.
I have an easier time imagining Ian Holm doing that because he's the evil cyborg. So hey, this will be good for him.
Oh, wait, no. I thought Ian Holm was.
He was. That's what I said.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying John Hurt.
No.
I'm just imagining Kane getting up and stuffing this.
Oh, look at this thing. This is on my face. This thing just face raped me, pretty literally.
Yeah, but then just for the lulls, and then just him just sitting there in the room, just going.
Him sitting there, keeping a straight face, waiting because it's gonna fall on somebody.
Just waiting, like, wait for it. Wait for it.
But yeah, that's it. The facehuggers are, the aliens will kill you, and they're absolutely designed to be scary. But there's something just kind of skin crawling about the design of the facehuggers with, the giant fingers, and they're scuttling around the room, and they can leap at you. And if you weren't arachnophobic prior to seeing those, an extended scene with the face. I mean, one of the more intense sequences from Aliens is Ripley and Newt being locked in the room with a couple of facehuggers.
Oh, God, yes. Evil Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser. Sorry. But, I mean, just the way that and that's one of the things that, they're one of the scarier aspects from, I mean, even the later movies, they're just so, the couple of facehugger sequences, and you don't get a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But in Alien 3, when it attached itself to the dog, and you get some brief flashbacks with the facehuggers in the cryo room with and they're still creepy little buggers. I mean, I think they're hands down, when they attack because I believe there's one point in Alien Resurrection when the group is attacked by a bunch of facehuggers. They come up into a room full of eggs after swimming underwater. And there's all these, and, they're then attacked by facehuggers. One of them almost gets, half alien Ripley, which is odd because it couldn't actually, I don't know. But they're still scary. Those little buggers will haunt your dreams more so than the others.
The one shot that really gets to me, and it's a subtle thing, it's proof that your scares don't always need to be really big. Sometimes it thank Tallahassee from Zombieland for pointing this out. It's the little things.
Yeah.
It's just the shot when they're getting ready to try to find a way to surgically remove this thing from Kane's face. And just as they're going to try to pry one of the legs off, there's this shot of the tail around its throat just tightening down on it. Something about that is just so vivid in my head. Maybe because prior to that, it's easy to think of it as, well, you see it on his face, and it's obviously not moving. It seems completely dormant, completely inert.
That's like the first time you realize, hey, it's alive.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Precisely. It's that reminder, just suddenly, just with that little bit of smooth movement, that this is a living thing on there that could actually conceivably royally fuck Kane up if Dallas and Ash don't act right.
And yeah, they tried it. Well, one of the things that gets mentioned is it is attached to its host with, I don't know, they never mention what it is, and I'm assuming it's just, force of musculature force, but forcibly removing it peels off skin. I mean, even from Alien 3, the dog that it fell off, it still had all of those patches of fur and whatnot that were gone, and it just looked like somebody had abused the poor thing. And no, that's just the face hugger when it came off.
Well, and that's the other thing is, yeah, granted, these are movies that are set in the far-flung, impossible future and everything, but one thing that doesn't change throughout the better parts of all the movies is the fact that the actual human reactions and interactions things are all completely believable for the way you could see somebody, just the emotional survival modes that people would really go into. Right down to the fact that when Kane finally comes around after the facehugger has detached itself and died, is he talks about he had a dream that he was smothering. And something like that, kind of both in a combination of how the kind of humanity that everybody in the cast really gives the crew, and also just in John Hurt's delivery, just kind of makes you think, yeah, boy, actually that would be horrible.
Oh yeah, dreams like that suck. And to, be in one that's like chemically induced because this thing is on your face would just kind of be even worse.
Yeah, and thankfully, blissfully, he has no idea what was actually going on.
And then he dies before he gets to realize the full implications.
Well, yeah, I mean, thankfully, if Ash had actually told him what was going on, I gotta think getting the last slice of cornbread would have been about the last fucking thing on his thoughts.
One would assume, yeah, there's this alien, it had this proboscis down your throat. We think it was depositing something.
Oh, can I have some cornbread?
Someone's got cornbread. Oh, God bless John Hurt.
And by the way, I might add, my soon-to-be Casual Heroes colleague, Jesse Starcher, is having him just a ton of fun on the Facebook link that you posted.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting it.
and speaking of facehuggers in video games, Contra!
One of my favorite games of all time. I still will play it if I have access to it. But yeah, the alien, the Xenomorphs, from their entire life cycle, are indelibly embedded in, pop culture. And even back then, for anyone who's never played the Contra games, first of all, shame on you. Shame, fight them. Second of all, the aliens at the end that you fight off, yeah, they're facehuggers. They're, pixelated from, it's a 90s game, give or take, early 90s. So, you can count the pixels if you pause the game, but they're still facehuggers, and they will, and they'll still. It's a 80s, it's a 90s game. So if they kill you, you're dead. But their design is very much reminiscent of the facehuggers, and that taps into part of what scares us about them. They're freaky little buggers.
They are. Yeah, they're absolutely terrifying. But really, I mean, the thing that makes the aliens most terrifying of all, that I think even makes them, since we're talking about both these franchises in rapid succession, even more terrifying than the Predators, is the fact that aliens have exactly a 2-item breed, kill anything that gets in the way of the breeding. That's it.
Yeah.
That is a playbook set to repeat. The Predator, you can, as Arnold finds out, you can kind of manipulate because it's an actual sentient
being. Yeah, the Xenomorphs are giant ants in kind of an ecological sense.
The Predator has a sense not only of sport, but a sense of honor, sort of. It doesn't want to fuck around with anything, generally speaking, with anything that's unarmed or doesn't seemingly pose a threat.
Which, a brief segue, we mentioned them a couple of times ago, but the folks at How It Should Have Ended for their Predator ending, just another one that kind of gets a good chuckle out of me every time I see it.
You know, and that's a series that I've really got to go back and really got to check out a little bit more of that.
Well, I'll tell you how it goes. The whole it's set at the end of the movie when they're running away, and the girl goes to pick up the rifle, and Arnold takes it away from her and says, "No, he didn't kill you because you weren't armed. There's no sport in it." And the other guy that they're dragging, I forget the character, says, "Well, wait a minute. If we all drop our weapons, none of us will be sporting targets. We can just walk out of here." Well, let's try that. So they all drop their weapons. The Predator shows up, and they're all like, "No, we're not armed." So it tries to give them back their weapons. They're like, "Nope." And he goes, "Oh." He gets all sad face.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it's one of those things that's better when you see it than I could possibly describe it, but it's another one that I kind of get a kick out of.
I would really fucking love to see a movie in which the Predators land on the set of a Jet Li movie, and Jet Li tries to figure this out and tries to pull this kind of shit. I say, we goddamn know better. You're still sport.
Maybe it'll be the fourth Expendables. The Predators will show up and take on the Expendables for the lulz.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list of things that would make for a perfect fourth Expendables movie. No, seriously, I've got this list of things that I keep thinking about as this franchise keeps going on, where I wonder both why haven't they done this yet, and is there a chance they're going to round out the franchise by doing it? One of them being, fuckers, you get Michael Biehn and Michael Dudikoff in this series now. Like goddamn yesterday, Gesundheit. Gesundheit again. And you know what? If you're going to cast some female eye candy and you're going to start the trend with Ronda Rousey of trying to get ones in there who can actually kind of hold their own, I know one of you motherfuckers can find Cynthia Rothrock.
Since you kind of touched on it, and next week when I do kind of want to bring up the Alien versus Predator.
Star Trek. Expendables in space.
Jesse Starcher on the Facebook page just put up, as Sean just said, Expendables in space, which is a joke that we use for movies from the 90s when, okay, we need something else to do with this franchise. Here, we'll put Leprechaun in space, or Jason in space, or Pinhead in space. I'm happy with that. If we've come full circle to where we now get Expendables in space, I'm okay with that.
You know what? In complete fairness, though, Jason X was kind of fucking awesome.
Yes, it kind of was. I'll give you that. But the other thing I wanted to, the one that we haven't touched on, a couple of the aberrations, because one of the Xenomorphs in their final mature form take characteristics from the host that they were implanted in. It's one of the reasons they're called Xenomorphs. They kind of alter, and there's two that, we got 10 minutes left, and I'm trying we got 10 minutes, sorry, not two. I'm trying a shocking experiment here. I want to try and end in the time I allotted, just to see if I can do it.
I'll limit my time.
But, the two that we haven't discussed, and I want to do them in this order, you have, I believe they refer to it as the Newborn from Alien Resurrection, and the Pred-Alien from Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Which might be one of the worst mashup nicknames ever. There you go. So your kind of thoughts on the Newborn, which was designed to be, more of a human-alien hybrid than even the Xenomorphs that we're kind of come to expect due to, it being, born naturally, or, coming about from a human reproductive system and being genetically spliced and whatnot. And so just kind of your thoughts on that, and then we'll go into the Predator-Alien hybrid. Which I'm not going to say Pred-Alien anymore just because it sounds weird when I say it out loud.
Hang on. We're actually going to get to have some fun here because I actually don't remember what these two things look like. So you actually get to hear my genuine reaction.
This will be fun.
Time in a long time. So let's try this here. Let's first try Newborn Alien. Okay, Newborn Alien Resurrection.
Here we go.
Very first.
Live ready.
option on the list. Okay. One in every mother of the fuck.
Okay, he has now seen the newborn, which, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I just encourage you to look it up. And I'll try to describe it here rather briefly. First of all, in stark contrast to all other xenomorphs,
Lucas,
which
I knew that crystal skull looked familiar.
All right, that's pretty accurate, actually, when you consider the way the crystal skull looks in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The way the newborn looks is not all that dissimilar. But unlike every other xenomorph, it's not black or some derivation thereof, because they different ones have different tones, but they're all very muted and very close to black. You have one that's white, and its facial features are designed to look like a somewhat animatronic skull. Like, if your bones could move to create emotion, that's kind of what it looks like, and
Dear God, so this is why H.R. Geiger never gave him eyes.
Yeah, which incidentally is another thing about the entire species. There's no eyes on them, which is just creepy in a lot of ways. But, okay, so that's the newborn, and we've had your reaction. Now, do me a favor, look up the Rastafarian Predalien.
I have seen both these movies, by the way, I might add. I just don't remember them very
You have blocked them out.
Oh, crikey, bumblefuck! Look, it's not like you didn't give it to the dog up the ass without giving it the courtesy of a reach around. But now it just looks like a lost.
A little bit, yeah. I will give the Predalien, as again they kind of refer to some. They did not a half bad job on elements of it. If you're gonna do something that might have been spliced together, I actually liked the way they combined the mandibles and the mouth parts, and I kind of liked that. But there were elements of it that's like, wait a minute. So the hair is a genetic, having bizarre, dreadlock-like hair.
You ever knew what Mark Henry and Mae Young's hand grew up to look like? Here, have a nightmare.
It's I don't think highly of the Alien versus Predator. When you guys do the long road to ruin on those, there is no road to ruin. Those are pretty much dead on arrival and fall downhill very slowly after their concept. But yeah, okay. So go ahead.
Fuck these pictures. God damn it!
You have to watch that movie coming up soon.
Ah, son of a fucking bitch.
Oh, that'll be fun. You get to, rewatch the Alien versus Predator movies. Both of them.
Off it, Rodovich, I'm going into hell with you two.
Yeah, I have to imagine Mark is not really going to watch them. He's going to read the synopsis online and then just get your reactions.
Son of a bitch, you do this. I swear I will know it.
Oh, but, and it's kind of sad because Alien, and I'm going to be very brief here, but, putting the aliens, the xenomorphs, on Earth was a long-time goal of everyone at the studio, and apparently everyone at that stupid evil corporation, the Weyland-Yutani Group, and we only get it in one of the worst entries into either franchise individually or combined.
And that's the sad part, because you know what? That would actually be a logical conclusion to the whole fucking thing, except for the fact that, much like the WCW invasion, it seems like an epic concept that nobody with half a firing synapse should be able to fuck up.
And yet,
lo and behold, any concept you have like that, give it to Fox, watch them find a way.
Well, just very briefly, and I've not read any of these, but I did some research before this show, surprise, surprise. That's actually a big part of the Dark Horse comics series on the aliens, is they actually make it to Earth and overrun the Earth.
Yeah, the Dark Horse actually gets shit right.
So, it's one of those sadly misused concepts, and especially because, the thought of those guys, the aliens and facehuggers and the whole nine yards in a relative, let loose on our society is kind of terrifying. Not just because, it does kind of remove the acid blood being a big deal, because when you're on a spaceship, the first time I saw Alien and they cut into that thing and the acid starts eating through the floor and everything, and Tom Skerritt's response is, "Oh, that's going to eat through the hull." Mm-hmm. That was the first time in that movie I was legit like, "Oh, shit. It might."
And you know what? Part of the fucking problem with these movies, and I'm going to try to keep this brief because I see we've only got a couple minutes left, is the simple fact that it's billed as Alien versus Predator. Okay? In the first movie, the parts where they actually square off are shot so ineptly by somebody's Parkinson-stricken grandmother, makes it impossible to see what the fuck is going on and actually enjoy it. And for pretty much the rest of the two movies, there is almost no Alien versus Predator. There is nothing. There's just the two sides pretty much respectively hunting humans for sport.
You know, after seeing both of those movies, my brother shared with me the following thought. You know, we would be better off if there was no dialogue and there were no humans and we just got to watch a dialogue-free 90-minute action flick featuring a group of 5 or so commando predators trying to take down an alien queen. And maybe it wouldn't, would it play very well? I don't know, but it couldn't be worse than a bunch of crappy actors with crappy lines delivering them like, "Please just give me my paycheck already."
This is such a good concept. What the fuck did you do to it?
You know, the video games are better. Let's just leave it at that.
No. Oh, no. I have read the Colonial Marines review.
I don't even mean the Colonial Marines. I mean, like, old arcade games where you were the Predator.
Okay.
Fighting aliens.
Oh, okay. I thought you had actually mistaken me for a drooling, blithering idiot and thought that you could con me into playing Colonial Marines for a second.
But it's like Mass Effect with aliens. All right. I know you're like seething in rage.
The holy trilogy.
All right. We got like 25 seconds, and I want to end close to on time. So what do you got to plug this week, Sean, and thanks for being here.
Really? I got nothing. January 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Blog Talk Radio over on the Rodlich Broadcasting Network. It's me, it's Mark, it's Jason, it's the still for now named Long Road to Ruin. And this week we are taking on the 3 Predator movies. And
it's the awesome title card.
Yeah, yes, with another one of Benjamin J. Cologne's awesome title cards. SoulExo.com, see some more of his work, including his original webcomic, Soul Exodus. We got 1 action classic, 1 movie that's just good, dumb fun for what it is, and fuck me running, go figure, put your remake in the hands of Robert Rodriguez as a producer, and watch somebody actually get it right. So tune in, 9 Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and just join in on the fun. And coming very soon, I'll be over on the Casual Heroes, blogging and podcasting and Let's Playing and all that other good shit.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And yeah, the title card for that is awesome. And, you shared with me the uncolored version when it was just black and white, and I thought that was awesome. And the and the colored version is still just freaking awesome. But so major props to Benjamin Cologne, who I am going to have to send some pictures of myself to now that I got a haircut and don't look like a caveman. Because there's at least 2 title cards he's going to have to draw up that include me on them. So apologies for that in advance, sir.
You'll make it.
Yes, artistic license is very, very encouraged. As for me, just to kind of quickly get into my plugs, because we're now in the overrun, you can hear me every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We'll be back this week. We will be reviewing UFC Fight Night 35, which I had live coverage of, yay me, and we'll be previewing UFC on Fox 10. Benson Henderson is back. He's fighting Josh Thompson. I covered 2 crappy cards in a row, and I missed Ben Henderson. Oh, I'm so annoyed. But we'll be doing that. That should be fun. Locked in the Guillotine is up now on 411 Mania. I review UFC on UFC Fight Night 35. Luke Rockhold gets the finish after a bunch of boring-ass decisions. I knew what I was getting into. And I also look at GSP calling out UFC for drug testing and other major news, including Bellator handing out title shots when they said they didn't. You guys are liars.
Oh, are you talking about Czech fucking Congo getting a heavyweight title fight?
No. Talking about Pat Curran. Loses by unanimous decision. Gets a rematch when there are 2 tournament winners waiting in the wings, including the only guy in Bellator to beat the now champion.
Okay, no wonder Pitbull was a little mad.
Yeah. They're giving Curran a rematch because they're having an event near Chicago, and that's where he's from. But Pitbull...
What is the actual candy-coated fuck, Rebney?
Hey, don't... I don't know, but I talk a little bit about that, too. And again, next week, here on Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, I am planning on having Mark Radulich on here, and we will be tackling the creatures that are the predators. I will look up their, assumed technical name between now and then, so I'll have it for the event. And we'll be talking about those the week after you guys talk about the movies, so that'll be fun. Sean, always a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And there it is. So to everyone out there, I have to cue up the sound bites properly. So to everybody out there, again, be thankful for again, light needs dark. Otherwise, you have just like nothing. You need contrast, people. That's the only reason vanilla is there, is to provide contrast, because it can't possibly be worse.
That's a rarity to hear somebody fuck up their own sign-off.
I haven't finalized it ever. I have kind of what I like to say, but I've never written it down or memorized it or anything. I mean, I only barely just got around to getting a legitimate sign-off for my column, and that's got over 120 issues, and I finally got a sign-off that I feel comfortable with. So there's that. But yes, again, everybody remember, you need darkness to have light. Appreciate the bad guys because they make the good things good. And because Tony Montana, I love that movie. So here's Tony Montana, who always gives us the sign-off. I'll see you guys next week, and until then, remember, guys, just again, thank the bad guys because good stuff needs bad to be properly appreciated.
So say good night to the bad guys.